Why dumb assholes win and you don't. This is ironically a pretty deep topic for a really shallow concept. And I think everybody in their life has at some point reflected on this interesting phenomenon where they see these like dumb jock people that seem to be somehow winning at life, right? And I was walking down the beach one day, just a couple days ago actually, and it it dawned on me what was actually going on. Now, as I grew up, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself some crazy giga chat or whatever. That's the archetype of peak masculinity. But I thought it was so funny that in my earlier years, and when I was studying and learning to be the man that I am today, I went deep into studying about archetypes or about marketing or sales or the human psychology. And I went so deep into the intellectual side and the self reflection and the self analysis and the deep spiritual path and essentially what it means to be human, what it means to be a man, and what it means to connect to a higher power. And I just remember sitting around with my friends, and this was just when I was getting started in my journey. And I thought it was so funny because like we would lament all the time. We're like, "Oh, why is nothing working out for us? Like, why is business not working out? Like, why are our relationships failing?" Like, and we would literally just like circle jerk each other about like how intelligent we were, completely disconnected from what actually makes somebody a successful person, because this is a really really deep topic, and this is an exploration about archetypes, and this is an exploration about actions, and this is an exploration about purpose, right? Because you could be a really really intelligent person but be completely disconnected from your body. Simultaneously, you could be a very connected person to your body but completely disconnected from any high conscious, high moral or ethical or intellectual concepts, right? And I was hanging out with somebody that I would consider just a model husband, a model father, somebody that's a very physically strong person, somebody that's a very mentally strong person, someone that's very articulate, somebody that I have a lot of respect for. And he just casually, offhandedly, just joked and said, masculinity in general is so simple. It's not something you think about. It's just something that you are. And, I just kind of passed it off. I was like, oh, yeah, well, of course that makes sense. But then I was walking on the beach, and I just saw these ripped dudes that were just with a bunch of really hot girls and just flirting with them, and it was working for them. And I just had to laugh. I'm like, these guys, and I actually listened in on the conversation. I'm like, these guys are talking about the most basic shit, like nothing of value, nothing of substance, nothing of intellectual stimulation. And it finally dawned on me. I'm like, we, at the end of the day, we are animals, okay? At a very, very base level, we are driven by our impulses. Okay? We are chemical, hormonal creatures where we are compelled to do behaviors that are based on how our hormones feel. I was just finishing reading Evolutionary Psychology by Dr. David Buss, and honestly, it's hard to not think about humans this way when there's so much in-depth study about how humans are predictable in terms of their hormones and their behaviors and their sexual mate preferences and their sexual selections. And I find that very perhaps maybe even financially successful people, but also intelligent people, they lose out on this very, very important aspect about interpersonal relationships, sexual relationships with potential partners, but also people that you want to work with in your business or just friendships in general, is that if we're too mental, if we're too intellectual, if we're thinking about something all the time, we get in our own way. And for example, if we're dancing and we're just thinking about the steps and we're thinking about what we want to do, we can't actually let something flow. Yeah? And so what a lot of these dumb men do, when I say dumb, I say somebody that doesn't necessarily have any type of intellectual prowess. They just kind of exist and seem to win. It's because people that are in that paradigm, people that are in that atheistic, materialistic, physical paradigm. They're consumed with pretty much only a couple of things. They're consumed with the way that their body looks, they're consumed with how big their bank account is, and they're consumed with how successful their business is or how much status that they have. And the thing is that these are tremendously, tremendously important things if you want to be a holistic human being. I'm not poo-pooing these people. I'm not saying that these are somebody that people that you should reject. What I am saying is that there's something deep to be learned about that. Now, if you look at the archetype of the jock, for example, and the nerd, for example, the nerd doesn't have physical prowess. So what does he do? He turns to his intellectual prowess, denying the body and seeing it as a means of escapism, like, okay, I'm going to escape into the technology, I'm going to escape into the academia, I'm going to escape into the intellect. Yet that type of system of coping with a lack of something doesn't necessarily always translate into something of real-world applicability. So you could be very, very smart, but that doesn't mean that you're going to make money from it or be able to subsist from it or be able to gain social favor from it or social status from it. Like, I know very, very smart people that I would consider are very socially awkward and very uncomfortable to be around. And when I was working with a lot of men in the past, I worked with some autistic men, or they had neurodivergence. And what I noticed about them was that they were extremely intelligent and very insightful and could really articulate a lot of really beautiful and interesting nuances about the human experience, but were completely devoid of any interpersonal relationship with other people. They couldn't relax in their bodies. They couldn't flow. They couldn't just be. They had to make everything some sort of psychological, philosophical intellectualization about life and reality. And it completely turned a lot of these women off. And what I noticed is that in relationships, a lot of the times, most people are really just going for vibes. Okay, what does vibes mean? Vibes is how you make the other person feel. It's how you make the other person want to interact with you. So, for example, if you're chilling in your body and your nervous system is relaxed, people are going to be more compelled and more magnetized to be around you. They're going to be more attracted to you because you're emanating a sense of internal power. You're not thinking. You're not overthinking, because overthinking creates anxiety, right? So when I say dumb people, I say people that aren't in their head all the time. They're not thinking about these highbrow things. They're just existing, and they're doing very simple things that work. You know, like, how do you become a very big person in your body? I lift heavy weight and eat protein. Heavy weight, protein, heavy weight, protein. It's very, very simple. Like, a child could know that, right? And it doesn't require this crazy intellectual rigmarole about how to become fit and how to be a strong person. It's literally just, dude, shut up, lift heavy weights, and eat a bunch of protein. It's really that simple. Or you look at somebody where they just seem to do very, very poorly in school, and yet somehow when they go out in the real world, they're very, very successful. And it's because what they've figured out is that there are certain things in the world that if you don't follow the norm, if you don't follow the things that the society and the system told you to do, but instead you do the one or two things that actually get you the results that you want, the process becomes very simple. In order to make a lot of money, essentially you have to be really good at sales and marketing. There's really no other way around it. And when somebody understands that sales and marketing is a system, that it's a very simple system, that you just follow, that it's a numbers game, that it's a practice game, it's at a certain point, it just becomes print the money button, get on the sales call. And any idiot can just be like, oh, I know, phone call equal money, talk to person equals money, lift heavy weights equals strong body. And when it comes down to it, all of the things that we try to understand about the human experience and what it means to be an actualized person and what it means to be a great human being really comes down to just being a simple person doing simple things, behaving in very simple ways. And it might seem unsophisticated. It might seem boring, but it works. And if you have a strong body with a strong mind and have the capacity to create agency, you have the capacity to create value, you have the capacity to elicit power, guess what? You're going to become an attractive and successful person. And so I find that a lot of the times that men that have difficulty connecting with women or other people, they actually have difficulty connecting with their body. They have difficulty connecting with their lower three chakras, which is essentially just your root, your solar plexus, and your sacral, which has to do with your personal will, your personal sense of identity and sexuality, and then your resources or your connectivity to the earth. There, a lot of the people that are struggling to connect with other people, they are like up here. They're floating around in space. They're intellectualizing everything. They're not grounding themselves. But when you're actually present in your body, when you're doing simple things that get the results that you want, it doesn't require much thinking. It doesn't require much intellectualizing. It just requires doing very, very simple things for a long period of time. And anybody can do very simple things for a long period of time. And so ironically, the less you think about what you need to do, and the more you just do the right thing, the more successful you could become. And actually, intelligence and intellectualism and high conscious behaviors that like to explore these very in-depth analysis of the nature of reality could actually inhibit you from having the connections and the experiences that you want. Like, I remember sitting around with some of my friends when I was first getting started, and I was talking to them and I was lamenting about how I didn't have as many clients at first when I was first getting started. And it was kind of like this pity party where they're like, oh yeah, you have so much value to give. Like, oh, anybody that wants to work with you, anybody that would work with you would get a lot from you. But really, at the end of the day, what I really should have been doing was running more ads, having more sales calls, making a more compelling pitch. Very, very simple things. And yet what I did was I just sat around and contemplated the nature of reality and just circle jerked to all the ideas I had about life. And guess what? It didn't ground me in real skills that made me money. It didn't grow my business. It didn't grow my bank account. And because I was so in my brain all the time and denying my body, it made me feel unsafe in my body. But the second that I switched into grounding these higher principles into a physical vessel that could operate at the level in which I wanted to, that was when everything came online. I was bridging the upper half with the lower half. And if you only, whether you consciously do this or you unconsciously do this, if you only value the material world, like how big your body is, like how big your muscles are, like how many cars you have, like how much your bank account is, how much status you have. If you only value those things, then guess what? You're going to get those things. And a lot of people are very happy and content with those kinds of things. But generally, the people that I work with have developed and cultivated that already, and then they're looking for something more. On the flip side, if men have felt like the material and the sexual and their personal identity is wrong, or money is bad, or, only rich people are evil, or, oh, I need to be conservative about my sexual energy, and all of these stories that keep us from really exploring and going in depth with the very real physiological material part of ourselves. If we deny that, we sort of get trapped in the upper realm that keeps us safe. We could tell ourselves, oh, I'm an important person because I'm smart, or oh, I'm an important person because I have a degree, and we just sort of create these mental constructs in our brains that make us feel good about ourselves, because when it comes down to actual reality, a lot of what we actually physically want to see in the world is not happening. So when I work with men, I find that there's either one or two of these things, that they're too deep into the physical body and they're only focusing on the atheistic, materialistic, what they can measure. And then they sort of reach this glass ceiling of, is this my life? Is my life just about having bigger muscles and having more O's in my bank account and having more status? Because, yeah, that's very fulfilling and rewarding. You can have a very materialistically sound life and a healthy body, but a lot of the men that I work with get into a crisis because at a certain point they only then therefore begin to see relationships as transactionary or tit for tat or a relationship that isn't really fulfilling to them. Well, simultaneously, the men that only explore the intellectual and the emotional realms can't ground themselves into a physical reality where they can demonstrate a sense of physical and financial prowess to show up in the world as a strong, capable man, which in and of itself can give them a crisis because there's a disconnect between their perceived abilities in their own mind versus their ability to actually carry on those high-minded principles within reality. So it's important to reflect on where you are in your own journey. Are you fixating too much in the mental, or are you finding that you're getting fatigued with the monotony of the day in and the day out of making the sales calls and building the body, and your life becomes just this robotic sense of doing nothing of value, really? And so the real art is balancing both of those. When you have the emotional and the spiritual depth and capacity to really deeply understand the person that you're with and yourself, whether it's a sexual partner or a romantic partner or a business partner or a friend, but also simultaneously the discipline, the physical prowess that comes with the disciplining and the conditioning of the body and the limiting of the things that distract you from physical success. If you can balance those two things where the strength of your mind and your heart are equally as strong in your body and vice versa, that's when you become a real machine. That's when you become the anomaly. That's when you can step into any situation and elevate the people that are around you because you embody the thing that they're lacking because you have figured it out yourself. You've embodied it yourself. And you can be of value to anybody around you anywhere because you are a mirror to the things that they're looking for within themselves. That is the big aha moment that I had, is that if you're way too up in your brain about these things, masculinity and success and the physical and the material realm is actually really simple. Do the thing that works long enough, consistently. Don't overcomplicate it. If you want a healthy body, eat healthy food, cut out the sugar, drink a lot of water, lift heavy weights. It's really that fucking simple, guys. It's really not that complicated. And guess what? The stronger the body you have, the more testosterone is flowing through your body, the more pheromones you have going on, the stronger your electromagnetic field, which makes you magnetic to more people. Because people sense that you have discipline. People sense that you have groundedness in principles and health and physiological success rather than just mental or emotional success. So the next time you go out and see these people that are really big and have a really hot girlfriend, just consider that doing that and getting that isn't actually that difficult. You just practice communicating, you stay in your sexual energy, you stay grounded, you stay in your body, and you lift heavy weights and you eat protein to make your muscles bigger. And then guess what? Big muscles. Big man strong, big man protect, big man make lots of money. It's really that simple, guys. And look, I get it. Sometimes people are going through some sort of crisis in their life and they don't know why they're feeling this way. It's because there's a disconnect, right? You're being out of integrity. You can think that you're a very capable, competent person, and yet you don't do the physiological things that ground in that mental capacity. While simultaneously, on the flip side, if you're just doing the things about the physical capacity and you're not anchoring in a higher vision, you are reaching a glass ceiling that will eventually cause you a lot of anxiety and stress. You'll start asking yourself, is this it? And I want to be able to help you navigate those challenges when they come up. Because if you are a man that is excellent mindedness and want to grow and want to succeed in your life, whether you're in the top half of your chakras, the lower half of your chakras, either way, you're going to be asking yourself some of these questions eventually along your journey when you go deep enough. And I want to be able to help you navigate those challenges, because it's when you step into embracing the other half of yourself that you've been denying and rejecting, that's when everything comes online. That's when you show up as a fully empowered man, and not just a man that thinks he's powerful only because his body's powerful, or thinks he's powerful because he knows a bunch of shit that nobody actually cares about, that doesn't really translate into something that gains you favor or makes you have more agency in your life. So if this is something that is resonating with you, click the link in my bio, and we'll get very, very clear as to the challenges that are going on in your life, because I want to take you to the next level as to where you want to go. Because the purpose of your life now is to become a holistic man, an actualized man, a man of power, a man of purpose, a man that is aligned with his highest good. And if you're denying one of the flip side of your body and your experience, you're not actually embodying your fullest power. And I want to help you embody your fullest power, because it's your birthright. And I've been doing this path for a long time, and I know the roadblocks that come along the way. So don't make this hard for yourself, okay? Because you can try to figure this out on your own, or you can work with somebody that knows exactly what you're going through and is going to help you get past that quicker, easier, and more gracefully.